You know I'm secretly a billionaire, right? I'd said it as a joke 300 times, and for 300 times, Chloe never took it seriously. But the 301st time, yesterday, she'd had enough. With a look of pure disgust, she dumped me. Moments later, she was all over some trust fund kid. So, right in front of her, I put that kid in his place. And I crushed him. 2 years ago, my old man tried to force me into a corporate marriage with the daughter of his business partner, William Sterling. I told him I'd rather die. In a fit of rage, I walked out with nothing but my phone and my driver's license. My father was just as stubborn. He froze every single one of my accounts. Two immovable forces, neither willing to budge. We haven't spoken a word since. That's when Chloe came into my life. She was always so gentle, her voice soft, and when she smiled, her eyes crinkled in a way that was impossibly cute. I never understood why she chose me. Well, you keep telling me you're a secret billionaire, she'd tease. And I'm just a girl who likes shiny things. But she never took advantage of me. She insisted on paying the larger share of the rent. If I bought groceries for dinner, she'd buy fruit for the week. We saved every extra penny we had. She'd talk herself out of a $10 eyeliner at the drugstore, but would spend $25 on a cheesecake from that little bakery I love. Life wasn't lavish, but it was sweet. Sometimes I even thought this was my destiny. A simple, warm life, rich in love if not in money. But lately, something had changed. The shift was sudden and jarring. I'd come home, and there was no warm hug waiting for me, no dinner on the table. I find her scrolling on her phone, but my own messages were left unanswered for hours. I started to suspect she was cheating. 02, I went to Megan, Chloe's co-worker and best friend, to see what was going on. It turns out Chloe had been getting close to some rich kid. She hasn't been having lunch with me lately, Megan said, picking at her nails. She clocks in right on time and leaves the second the day is over. When I ask what's up, she gets quiet. Today, I saw her get into a Mercedes after work. Damn it. It was true. A buzzing filled my head. Megan kept talking, trying to comfort me, but I didn't hear a single word. With Chloe's looks and personality, she never lacked for admirers. Most of them backed off when they found out about me, and the rest got the message after she firmly turned them down. I had imagined 100 reasons why we might break up. Money was never one of them. I don't even remember saying goodbye to Megan. The walk home was a blur of memories. We never made grandiose promises or vows of eternal love. Our relationship was built on the quiet, steady foundation of mutual care. That, to me, was real. That was the only thing I'd ever truly wanted. And Chloe was the foundation for everything. When I opened the door to our apartment, she didn't rush into my arms like she used to. She was sitting on the couch, her smile forced and exhausted. She loved that little two-seater sofa. She used to say, "It's perfect for us. Not too big, not too small. No room for a third person." What about now? I dropped down next to her and started peeling an orange, trying to keep my voice steady. "Busy day? You just get in." "Yeah, things are crazy at work. Just got back from pulling some overtime." Her eyes always darted away when she was lying. This time was no different. In that instant, rage flooded my brain, and my voice rose without my permission. "That's bullshit. The whole office building was dark when I walked by. Where the hell were you?" My shouting made her flinch, and then the tears started streaming down her face. Right? Chloe wasn't quick on her feet. She hated arguing. She was terrible at defending herself when she was in the wrong. In 2 years, we'd barely fought. She always put up with my little quirks. Even when she was hurt, she'd just cry quietly by herself. I never needed to buy expensive gifts. A sincere apology was always enough to have her curled back in my arms. This time, she wouldn't look at me. "Ethan, you know," she whispered. So, she knew she couldn't hide it anymore. But, why, the second I saw her tears, did half my anger just evaporate. Still, I wasn't letting her off the hook. "Megan told me everything. So let's hear it." Her sobs grew louder, but her voice got weaker. "I'm sorry. I betrayed you. My worst fear had come true. I was wandering the streets alone, with no memory of how I'd even left the apartment. All I could remember was her gut-wrenching sobs. The image of my own hand, raised to strike her, but frozen in the air, unable to follow through. Her voice, catching in her throat as she choked out the words, "Let's break up." The reason she gave? I couldn't give her the life she wanted. But she used to tell me that the only thing she wanted in her life was me. I once asked her if she would stay with me, even if I had nothing to offer, and she nodded without a moment's hesitation. She trusted me, just like I trusted her. But that trust had shattered in the blink of an eye. Fighting back tears, I packed a bag. She had cried herself out and was now just sitting on the couch, her eyes vacant, like a doll with the soul ripped out. As I was about to leave, she said one last thing. Be careful. Preston Vance might come after you. Preston Vance. So that's his name. Kicking a man when he's down. Huh? We'll see who's really down. I lit a cigarette and walked aimlessly through the city. A light drizzle began to fall, mixing with the distant sounds of laughter and traffic, and every breath I took felt like inhaling glass. I flicked the ash from my cigarette and narrowed my eyes at the shadows deepening under a street lamp ahead. 5 guys with tattoos and baseball bats emerged, dragging them across the pavement with a grating screech. The leader, a bald man with a scorpion tattooed on his throat, looked cold in the winter air. A bat swung past my head and slammed into the park bench beside me, sending sparks flying onto the sleeve of my jacket. A punk with bleach blonde hair grabbed my collar, his cheap cigarette breath hot in my face. You think a broke loser like you can compete with Mr. Vance for a woman? I clenched my fists and stumbled back, my shoulders hitting the cold glass window of a 7-11. Suddenly, a chorus of engines roared in the distance. A fleet of 13 black Mercedes S-Class sedans surrounded a custom Rolls-Royce Phantom, its hood ornament gleaming in the neon lights. Shit, that's Grant's fleet. The scorpion-tattooed leader froze, his bat clattering into a puddle. A kid with green hair grabbed his buddy's shirt. We gotta go. Last month. The leader clamped a hand over his mouth, and the 5 of them scrambled toward a beat-up cargo van. This ain't over, the leader yelled, leaning out the window as they sped off, veins popping in his neck. Next time, I'll make you eat shit on a live stream. The sound of tires splashing through puddles died away. The doors of the luxury cars opened in unison, and a team of chauffeurs in black coats stepped out. They placed their white-gloved hands over the family crest on their chests and bowed a perfect 90 degrees. Welcome home, sir. Behind a glass window, the 7-Eleven clerk stood frozen, broom in hand, like a statue. In an abandoned warehouse on the south side, the blonde punk was banging a wrench against a rusty oil drum. When I pushed open the creaking metal door, the 5 thugs were sitting around a portable stove, eating delivery pizza. The stove was wired to a streetlight they'd illegally tapped into. Well, look what we have here. The delivery boy brought himself, the bald leader sneered, pointing a beer bottle at me. We let you go yesterday, and you come looking for trouble today? Maybe he's just in a hurry to eat shit. Ha ha ha. Blondie cackled, and the others joined in. You're out of luck today, punk. I kicked an empty oil drum out of my way, the smell of cheap pizza making me cough. How much does Preston Vance pay you a month? I happen to know he stiffed you on the payout for that car accident last month. The green-haired kid's slice of pizza dropped from his hand. I opened my iCloud photo library and showed them pictures of them joyriding in one of Preston's sports cars. If Preston were to see these... Oh, who do you think you're scaring? Blondie scraped his wrench across the greasy table. 3 of them started to surround me, the stench of stale smoke and pepperoni closing in. Before they could get close, the doors of several cars parked inside the warehouse flew open. 20 men in immaculate suits and white gloves emerged, instantly surrounding the 5 thugs. These are my security detail. The thug's eyes went wide, darting around in panic. Did you really think I was just Chloe's boyfriend? One of my men brought over the only clean chair in the place, wiped it down, and gestured for me to sit. My father is the man you work for. Now, are we ready to talk? Talk. Blondie's eyes were filled with terror. Whatever you want to talk about, sir. I tossed 5 employment contracts onto the table. 50 grand a month. Full benefits. Your job is to keep being Preston Vance's loyal dogs. They stared at the Grant Corporation logo on the letterhead, their Adam's apples bobbing in unison. But from now on, I said, taking their phones and dropping them into a bucket of greasy water, you show me your text exchanges with him first. Mr. Grant, Blondie said, his tone now dripping with respect. Preston just took Chloe to the Pinnacle Club for dinner. Preston's hand was just starting to slide around Chloe's waist when I kicked the door to their private suite open. The crystal chandelier overhead swayed, knocking his gold-rimmed glasses askew. He tightened his grip on Chloe and sneered. Well, looks like the delivery boy got the wrong address. A small strawberry-shaped barrette, one-eyed haggled for at a street fair last year down to $5, fell from Chloe's hair. She instinctively tried to bend down and pick it up, but Preston stepped on the hem of her dress. Look closely, Ethan. This is how it is now. She kneels to pour my wine. I grabbed the ice bucket from the table and dumped it over a platter of imported A5 Wagyu, sending blood-tinged water and ice cubes flooding over Preston's alligator skin shoes. He jumped up, shoving Chloe away. You little bastard. I'm going to have you carried out of here tonight. He paused, a cruel smirk spreading across his face. You know what? I just thought of something fun. You crawl between my legs and lick my shoes in front of Chloe, and I'll pay for her dad's medical bills. So that was it. Chloe had a reason. Before I could process it, he started chuckling to himself. Perfect. Just perfect. I want everyone to see what happens when you try to take my woman. His hand snaked out toward Chloe's chest. Let's see just how far she'll go to protect her dignity. Chloe cried out, covering herself as she stumbled backward. You were saying something about teaching me a lesson? This is it. I laughed. Pretty pathetic, don't you think? Oh, you got some nerve, kid, he said, pulling out his phone. He made a call, taunting me between words. But not much. You need to understand something. For a man, being broke is the original sin. And your woman? She ends up on her knees for someone else. Chloe, ever worried about me, ran over and tried to pull me away. Ethan, we're broken up. Please, just leave. Not so fast, I said, gesturing for her to sit down and watch the show. I want to see what Mr. Vance has in store for me. Stop it. Please, I'm begging you. Chloe's voice was thick with tears. His guys will be here any minute. They'll kill you. Too late, Preston said, waggling his phone. They're on their way. You heard him. You have to go. Chloe was frantic, tears welling in her eyes. Preston himself said he wants to show everyone what happens when they mess with him. I'm excited to find out, I said, patting her hand. Don't worry. I'll be fine. All right. Preston swirled the red wine in his glass. Tough talk. I can't wait to pull your teeth out, one by one. The door opened, but it was Megan who walked in. She didn't even glance in our direction, instead sashaying over to Preston with a seductive smile. Having a bad day, Preston? How about I liven things up for you? Preston's face twisted into a lecherous grin. Why don't you get on your knees right here and give everyone a little show? He then pointed at Chloe. And later tonight, when you're crying under me, I'll be sure to film it for Ethan. Gotta satisfy his little cuckold fantasy. You son of a bitch. I shot to my feet, my chest heaving. I hurled a bottle of wine at his head. He ducked, and it shattered against the wall behind him. Glass shards and red wine sprayed across him and Megan. I couldn't believe it. In just 2 years, the privileged circle I had worked so hard to clean up had devolved into this kind of depravity. And this punk, who wasn't even worthy of shining my shoes back then, was now running his mouth in front of me. Megan yelped, ignoring herself to frantically dab at Preston's suit with a napkin. Shit! Preston shot out of his chair, slapping her hand away. What the hell are you doing? In a minute, this bastard is going to be licking it clean. Chloe was sobbing, desperately holding me back, begging me not to do anything rash. I let her pull me back into my seat and lit a cigarette. Fine. We'll wait. 07 The door was kicked open again, and the thugs I'd met earlier stormed in. Blondie's eyes scanned the room. Who's the genius who decided to mess with Mr. Vance? It's him. Ethan. Megan, suddenly emboldened, pointed at me. Kill him. The word was barely out of her mouth before a loud smack echoed through the room. Preston had backhanded her across the face. Who gave you permission to speak, you whore? Megan's bravado vanished. She clutched her cheek and retreated to a corner, her eyes flashing with hatred before she looked down at the floor. Lock the door, Preston commanded, sinking back into his chair and propping his feet up. So, Ethan, not so tough now, are you? Show me some of that fire from before. Otherwise, this is going to be really boring. I glanced at Blondie. You heard him. We need to make this interesting for Mr. Vance. Got it. In a flash, Blondie grabbed Preston by his gel-caked hair and slammed his face directly into the platter of ruined Wagyu and ice water. Bloody juices splattered across his Hermes shirt. Preston squealed like a pig. Are you guys insane? I'm the one who pays you. You treat us like dogs, the bald man said, yanking his head back up by the hair. But Mr. Grant here treats us like brothers. Who do you think we're going to help? The green-haired kid grabbed the ice bucket and dumped the remaining contents down the front of Preston's pants. Mr. Vance likes making people lick shoes, right? He pried Preston's mouth open and shoved one of his own ruined, steak-covered alligator shoes inside. How's that for an appetizer? The chaos made Chloe knock over her wine glass. I steadied her shoulder. Don't waste it. I poured the red liquid over Preston's head, where it mixed with his nosebleed into a grotesque, sticky mess. Etan, I'm sorry. Preston spat out a piece of the leather shoe, his glasses hanging crookedly from one ear. You can have Chloe back. Her brother. I'll pay for all his treatments. No questions asked. The car, the apartment, it's all yours. Your backbone doesn't seem so strong now, does it, Mr. Vance? I stood up and kicked him while he was kneeling, sending him sprawling. Ethan, please let me go. I was wrong. I swear, I know I was wrong. He groveled, snot and tears streaming down his face. He looked like a pathetic clown. You have two choices, I said, picking up a heavy, ornate ashtray. Either you eat everything on that plate, or you streak through downtown. Preston started shoveling the ruined meat and ice into his mouth with trembling hands. Suddenly, Chloe rushed over and grabbed my arm. That's enough. Ethan, you're going to kill him. I kicked him one last time. Get lost. 08 the next day, my father called to remind me about my lunch date with Victoria Sterling. He followed it with a threat. If you even think about getting back with that Chloe girl, you're out of the family for good. Victoria was the woman I was supposed to marry 2 years ago. Back then, she couldn't have cared less about me. Now, she was suddenly desperate to get into the Grant family. With Chloe's family situation still unresolved, I had no choice but to go. Without my family's name, I couldn't help her brother. With it, I couldn't be with her. The frustrating thoughts made me distracted. Victoria, however, didn't seem to notice. She gracefully placed choice pieces of food on my plate, acting for all the world like this was the most important date of her life. It was clear she had prepared meticulously. Her makeup was flawless, her outfit perfectly coordinated. Honestly, she was stunning. Just then, the door to our private room was kicked open. I looked up. It was Preston again. This time, however, he wasn't with Blondie and his crew. Ethan moved on to a new girl already. Preston held up his phone, snapping pictures of us. A smirk tugged at the burn marks on his face, making him grimace in pain. See what I mean? I put down my chopsticks and gave him a humorless smile. I'm just better at this than you are. Damn you. We'll see how tough you are today. He smashed several teacups on the floor. You're crawling out of here on your knees. Oh, why don't you find out who this beautiful woman next to me is first? Victoria shot me a confused look, clearly wondering why I was deferring to her when my own status was far superior. She crossed her arms, instantly adopting the air of an heiress. My name is Victoria Sterling. I'm the daughter of William Sterling, CEO of the Sterling Group. If you know what's good for you, you'll get out. While the Sterling Group wasn't as powerful as my family's corporation, it was more than enough to crush the Vance family. Preston's face went pale. He quickly forced a smile. My apologies, Miss Sterling. I didn't realize. I'll be going now. Not so fast, I said, pointing at the shattered porcelain on the floor. On your knees. Victoria let out a soft laugh, then quickly composed herself, leaning closer to me. You really hold a grudge, she whispered. I like that. Since when's that a good quality? Preston's face crumpled. Come on, Ethan. Give me a break. I gave you a break yesterday, and here you are again, I said, lifting the teapot full of hot water. Say another word, and this is going over your head. He swallowed hard, his face a mask of terror. He got on his knees and started crawling toward the door. Every movement was agony. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and he left a winding trail of blood on the polished floor from the cuts on his hands and knees. As he struggled to his feet in the doorway, I added one last warning. If you ever touch Chloe again, I will bury your entire family. The threat was for him, but it was also for Victoria to hear. 09 after lunch, I let Victoria decide what we'd do next. She tilted her head, thinking for a moment. Let's go to Navy Pier. I had expected her to suggest shopping on Michigan Avenue, a round of golf, or maybe a symphony or an art gallery to show off her sophistication. Don't tell me a girl like you has never been to an amusement park. She blushed, and nodded sheepishly. What a strange woman. She wasn't the least bit scared in the haunted house, but she still clutched my sleeve and pretended to be terrified. She screamed the loudest on the roller coaster, but as soon as we got off, she just patted her chest and said that was fine. Her favorite ride was the Ferris wheel. She said that watching the city skyline at sunset helped her forget about work and just be herself. And with me, she never once put on airs. When I complained I was too lazy to walk and asked her to get me ice cream, she just smiled, ran to the stand in her high heels, and sprinted back so it wouldn't melt. Wasn't this a little too subservient? At lunch, I saw you pull the whole heiress act. It was natural commanding, but when it's just me, you act so humble. Why? She stared at her shoes. I think I'm starting to like you. Cut the crap, I said, losing my patience. We're not kids. Tell me the truth, or I'm leaving. That is the truth, she said, her voice firm. It's just not the whole truth. After a long silence, she finally told me. Her family's company was on the verge of collapse. Their cash flow was a disaster, and her father was pinning all his hopes on her getting engaged to me so my father would inject capital into their business. Are you insane? You can't just tell me that. What's to stop my father from lowballing you now? I don't think you're that kind of person, she said, her eyes shining. Just agree to the engagement. I'll do anything you want. That's a pretty smart gamble your family is making, I said, lighting a cigarette. A flicker of panic crossed her eyes. What do you mean? If I don't tell my father, your family will think I'm trustworthy and decent. If I do tell my father and he does nothing, it means he genuinely wants this alliance to happen. And if he does try to lowball you, you've probably already prepared for that possibility. A radiant smile broke across her face. Now I like you even more. What am I going to do? I slowly exhaled a plume of smoke, saying nothing. The setting sun cast a warm, red glow over the two of us on the park bench, creating a scene that looked deceptively romantic. But what about my Chloe? 10 that night, my phone rang. It was Blondie. Mr. Grant, some guy pretending to be a delivery driver, tricked Chloe into opening her door. He tried to drag her out. I shot up in bed. And you told us to stick close by, he said, not forgetting to take credit. We rescued her. We're taking her somewhere safe now. I pulled back the curtains and looked down at the fleet of armored cars on standby 24/7. Double everyone's bonus, I said, my throat tight. Put her on the phone. I heard the rustle of clothing, and then Chloe's voice, trembling but controlled. Ethan, I'm okay. I have a safe house prepared for you. Go there for now. By tomorrow, this will all be over. Okay, she paused. You be safe. The next morning, my family's chief of staff presented me with a complete dossier of the Vance Corporation's criminal activities. Don't overdo it. We don't want people saying we're bullying them. My father had warned me as I walked down the hospital corridor. I had to smile at that. I never thought my old man would go soft in his old age. I pushed open a hospital room door and walked straight in. You must be Chloe's brother. The young man on the bed was pale, but when he saw me, he struggled to sit up, his face contorted with rage. Preston, Vance, I wouldn't take a dime from you if I were dying. I smiled and glanced at Blondie, who was standing behind me. What did you guys do to him? Well, Blondie scratched his head, looking embarrassed. Before, Mr. Vance had us. Threatened him a little. I didn't need the details. I knew what kind of slime Preston was. I'm not Preston Vance, I said, pulling out my phone and showing Chloe's brother a video. He's the one who likes drinking ruined steak juice. Not me. Then who are you? He asked, his eyes full of confusion. I'm Ethan Grant. Oh, so you're the one. My future brother-in-law, he said, making a mock formal bow. He caught on quick. This kid had a future. I handed him a debit card. Use this. If it's not enough, just let me know. He immediately tried to refuse. No, I can't. My sister said I can't take your money. She's afraid she can't pay you back. Your sister listens to me. Are you saying you won't? I pressed the card into his hand. I've got to go. Thank you, man. At the door, I turned back. By the way, don't tell your sister I was here. What about the money? Make something up. 11 when I stormed into the Vance estate with a dozen of my security guards. Megan was being pinned to a leather sofa by Preston. Her dress was torn, and dark bruises were visible on her thigh under the chandelier light. Preston's father sat calmly, holding a delicate porcelain teacup. Mr. Grant, have you come here looking for a beating? His own bodyguard began to surround us, tapping their batons against the Persian rug. Mr. Grant, Preston stared at his father in shock. You're saying Ethan is the son of the Ethan Grant? The Titan? Oomph. So what if he is? The elder Vance looked at me with contempt. Come at my home. Even the President of the United States would have to show me some respect here. He sat down heavily on the sofa. You hurt my son. I will return the favor, piece by piece. His bodyguards moved forward, but they were swiftly neutralized by my professional team, who pinned them against the marble columns. Patience, Mr. Vance, I said, projecting an air of calm. Why don't you take a guess as to why I'm so confident? I don't care why. Today, the rest of his threat died in his throat. I tossed a stack of photos on a coffee table. Evidence of Preston dealing drugs, engaging in illegal fights, and multiple counts of sexual assault. The older Vance's face turned crimson. He snatched the photos and slapped Preston across the face with them, his hand trembling with rage. You worthless child. You couldn't just. Preston turned ghost white and dropped to his knees. Dad, you have to help me. I'm your only son. His father kicked him aside, his chest heaving. He lit a cigar. Mr. Grant, name your price. My price? I was here to watch them both burn. Patience, Mr. Vance, I said, casually crossing my legs. Why don't you take another guess at what else I have? Enough. The old man shot to his feet, puffing out his chest in a last-ditch effort at intimidation. You think a few doctored photos can convict my son? Vance Pharmaceuticals has been cutting baby fever medicine with chalk dust. Blondie handed me a file, and I slid the lab reports across the table. 3 years ago, an infant died at that clinic on the south side. I leaned in close to Preston's twisted face. You were bragging at a club that night about how the money you made from that fake medicine was enough to buy 10 bottles of Ace of Spades. The ash from his father's cigar fell, burning a hole in the silk rug. Baseless accusations. Your warehouse manager, old Mr. Liu, his grandson was one of the infants who died from your fake medicine. I played a video on my phone. A white-haired old man was sobbing to the camera. He secretly filmed your inventory logs. It's enough to put you and your son away for life, 10 times over. Preston suddenly burst out laughing. That old fool, I had him committed to a mental institution. He was transferred to the Grant Corporation's private wellness center last night. I gestured to Blondie, who produced the transfer paperwork. He's now a special witness for the Department of Health. The sound of sirens grew louder in the distance. You called the cops? The elder Vance grabbed a priceless antique vase to swing at me, but one of my men dislocated his shoulder and shoved him face first into a large aquarium. Koi fish flapped wildly inside his Armani suit. I knelt and spoke softly. I hear you're a fan of exotic food. You'll get to try the prison cafeteria's specialty very soon. Suddenly, Megan screamed, tearing open her collar to reveal more bruises. Preston Vance raped me. There are 47 hidden camera videos on his laptop's D drive. She scrambled toward the police officers who were just entering the room, but Preston grabbed her by the hair and slammed her head against the wall. As the police dragged him away, Preston was still screaming, Ethan, Grant, I'll haunt you from my grave. Outside the villa, the neon sign of the corner convenience store had been replaced. It now read, The Grant Foundation Legal Aid Center. Blondie asked if he should call Chloe. I looked at the familiar cheesecake shop on the corner and smiled. Let her watch the news. The Vance family was torn out by the roots. Every relative involved in their schemes was arrested. Preston and his father were sentenced to life without parole. Looks like he'll have to curse me from a prison cell. My own father called, his voice grim. You had your fun. Now I have to clean up your mess. He paused, pretending to be distracted by the TV. So, how are things with Victoria Sterling? I grabbed my jacket. On my way to a date with her now. This time, she wanted to meet at the hospital. Her choice of date spots was truly baffling. I found her in the main lobby, holding a receipt. Why here? I asked. She held up the receipt, a bright smile on her face. I just paid a hospital bill for Chloe's brother. You? Paid for Chloe's brother? What kind of game was she playing? I frowned. Why would you care about him? Because you care, she said, stepping closer and taking my arm. Want to come over to my apartment later? I'll make you seafood. Ethan. I turned at the sound of my name. It was Chloe, standing just a few feet away. She must have heard our conversation. Her eyes darted between me and Victoria. She bit her lip, then walked forward and took my other arm. Will you come home with me? I bought your favorite cheesecake. I looked at the brilliant, complex Victoria Sterling. Then I looked at the warm, gentle Chloe. And for the first time in my life, I had absolutely no idea what to do.